we've minimized marijuana use. And it's sad, so I don't want to say I love, but hearing people come out and with transparency and vulnerability to share real stories of lives affected by the marijuana is a big deal. We have medical doctors today that don't understand this issue. We have psychiatrists that don't understand this issue. We have psychologists that don't understand this issue. I'm a certified addictions counselor. There's a couple in the crowd left. We have certified drug and alcohol counselors that do not understand this issue. Jody Belcher was mentioned earlier, a great friend of mine from Southern California, San Luis Obispo. She created the video documentary, The Other Side of Cannabis. It's a DVD that's a must own. A lot of programs should be using that. She's doing a placement right now on her hours for her degree at a court-ordered, mandated drug and alcohol program. And the certified drug counselors there they minimize the marijuana because it needs to be methamphetamine for them to act. So we have a long way to go. It's sad because you would think our own industry would have recognition of this issue. Now I'm passionate about this because I went through it. It robbed me of my childhood. It led to 2 years of incarceration and being a high school dropout. 2 years of incarceration during some very serious formative years that I'm still working through. Because when you're a dude growing up in South Sacramento in the 80s where I was, and then you go to juvenile hall and Boys Ranch again, and then Rio Casumas Correctional Center, and I'm not the guy that wants to be picked on, I had to armor myself up and build myself into something super strong and super alpha and all that kind of stuff. And I've spent the second half of my life trying to unlearn everything that I learned the first half. So that's just my men's work that I got to do on me. And so I stay active in my growth. Now, one of the things, because I want to keep you guys awake, so I hope I don't put you to sleep with this one, we haven't talked about the neuroscience enough, I think. So let me give you this. How old is the brain when it's finished developing? And it's been said before here. 25. So we already got it wrong with nicotine and alcohol, right? You should have to wait till you're 25 before you put that stuff in. The brain, all right, so this, I got $50. All right, here you go. How much, you're a pharmacist, you are not allowed to answer this question. I don't have $50, I just looked, so sorry about that. The brain fully grown is 3 pounds. The brain fully grown is 3 pounds. In the first year of life, 2 of those 3 pounds are fully grown, or are grown. The last pound, that third pound of brain grows from age 2 to the early 20s. It actually grows up to 18 years old, and then it myelinates and a lot of complicated stuff with myelination around neural networks from 18 to 25. So guess what the brain's trying to figure out? It's figuring out balance, homeostasis, and it's writing its own program from the world we live in. It's creating a blueprint. It's creating a blueprint, and at age 18, 25 years old, it says, this is the program, run with it. We've adapted to the society that you live in, run with it. So the brain wants balance of neurotransmitters. Do you guys know what some neurotransmitters are? Someone shout out a neurotransmitter. Dopamine, acetylcholine, norepinephrine, serotonin, GABA, acetylcholine. All right, we have mu, kappa opiate receptors. We have all kinds of neural networks and neurotransmitters. So you would think, because dopamine is the feel-good system, and dopamine is the I want system, dopamine is the motivational system and the reward system. Like if you're sitting out there in the crowd right now and you're like this, I just want John Daly to be done with this talk, I'm kind of getting bored. That's your dopamine firing. That's your dopamine firing. And then if you are like, I want to raise my hand and ask him a question, that's your serotonin system now firing, the pause. I'm gonna wait. My dopamine is I wanna ask him a question. My serotonin system's firing as a caution braking protection system of I should wait till he's done and then raise my hand. So you wait until I'm done, you raise your hand, now that's your norepinephrine system. Norepinephrine is energy, arousal, and drive. Serotonin regulates caution and pause, braking system. We talk about the prefrontal cortex of teens and young adults as the caution braking system. Well, that's organically the prefrontal cortex for sure, but the neurotransmitter that's tethered to that same process is serotonin. So stay with me. You guys with me still? All right, because I'm going to break. So I'm just trying to give you real life right now of how these neural systems work, how they develop, and how they get disrupted by drug use. All right, so let's see. You wanted to tell me to hush because you wanted to bail out of here, and that was dopamine. And then you wanted to wait for me to be finished talking before you raised your hand, so that caution and braking system was serotonin. You guys are doing great. And then you raised your hand to ask me a question. That energy and mobilization is your norepinephrine system. And then I look you in the eye with sparkle, and not tolerance, but sparkle, which sends the signal to you, it's okay, and dopamine fires again as now the back end reward, and so does the opiate system to then organize all those other neural systems. That's kind of complicated, but that's a here and the now example. Every moment by moment by moment for a teen through young adult years, those systems are just adapting to the environment because it needs to be the right balance. Too much serotonin is a manic episode. Deficiency in serotonin is impulsivity, and the worst case is homicide and suicide. Problem sleeping, all kinds of things. Too much norepinephrine is a problem. Deficiency is a problem. We can go on and on and on. But our kids are growing, and these neural systems are adapting to the environment. And guess what? When we go, the brain doesn't recognize cannabis as cannabis. It sees it as dopamine. It sees it as serotonin. So what does it do during this developmental time? It says, I better stop producing my own. And anandamide. I better stop producing my own. Because too much is what? Harmful. Deficiency is harmful. So now the brain's taking clues from the environment, organizing itself, and so that kid that's using marijuana from junior high school, college, average onset's 12 years old, we talked about that, their brain is different. The biggest two risk factors for addiction is what? Genetic family history, and people talked about that up here. We didn't have genetic family history, and yet this occurred. The second biggest variable is early onset of first intoxication. So, 12 years old, what's changed in the last 20 years? It's not 4% THC anymore. It's up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s today. And that brain exposed to that consistently over time is broken. That's a broken brain. It's a broken emotional regulation system. I can go on and on. There's a lot of layers of complexity to that, and I don't want to bore you with the neuroscience. But that's what's happening, people. I don't know why, again, Darrell Steinberg, who's on these steps days ago, and who's been the biggest proponent of mental health for us, and he comes out and says, I'm for suicide prevention and suicide awareness, but I'm for Prop 64 because he doesn't understand that while the brain is in its last stages of growing and dopamine is now not built properly and the serotonin system is not built properly, that which leads to impulsivity and depression, well, what a setup for suicide and hurting other people. It doesn't make sense. So I hope that he listens today. I'm a researcher. I've written books. I've written articles. I teach grad school for USF. I'm a Christian. I own it. I'm a family man. I'm a contributor to our community. As a scientist, Prop 64 is wrong. As a Christian, Prop 64 is wrong. As a father, Prop 64 is wrong. I love investing. I could talk stocks and options tradings with you guys all day long. Let me tell you guys what you need to know about investing. It's real simple. The risk assessment is this. What's the upside potential to the downside risk? And that should be your formula with any choice you make in life. If you're going to become a Christian, what's the upside potential to downside risk? Do your homework. If you're going to get a new job, what's the upside potential to that job? If you're going to get in a new relationship, what's the upside potential to the downside risk? This is too important. Prop 64. What's the upside potential, people? We get a little bit of taxes, and you've all been hearing the downside risk. That's not an investment I want to make. The last thing that I want to say about this, and this is just my bias, we hear dynamic speakers, such as myself. We hear dynamic speakers, and it intellectually intrigues us. And sometimes our heart gets moved. I feel like doing something. It doesn't count until it's activated in your behavior. You're either part of the problem or part of the solution. You guys all now are informed people. We have to carry the message. I brought my staff here, they were here earlier from my outpatient treatment program. That's a big financial loss for all of them. They got family members to feed with the money. We know this is important. Should Prop 64 pass, my outpatient program is going to get busy, and I'm going to be requested in the schools at $225 an hour and blah, 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 because that's just how it is and has been for a long time, and it'll be on steroids for my business. I want what's right for the people. I don't care about the money. I want what's right. Prop 64 is not right. But what I want to tell you is, please turn to somebody today and just take the time with them. You can't be all prickly with elbows and be like, blah, 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 blah. You got to be like, hey, can I talk to you about something? This is on my heart, this is on my mind. So if you feel moved about what you're hearing today, please talk to somebody about it. Encourage the vote. Now, I will tell you this, and then I'll get out of here. I did have to buy a vote the other day. So now I guess now I'm like a lobbyist. My niece who was here earlier today, this morning with our 5 children, Mia, she likes the Clippers. I'm a Kings fan. Whatever Golden State Warriors people out there. So she had just turned 18 and I said, are you gonna vote? And she says, no, I don't think I'm gonna vote. So I go through Women's Suffrage Act, right? We're going through all the, the history of like, you gotta vote. And then we have this Prop 64, which is very passionate to me. And I said, Mia, if you get on the phone right now and you register to vote, and then you're gonna have to screenshot it when you do vote, I'm taking you to a Clippers game. So I'm putting my money and my time, I'm calling on all people. We gotta stop this. We gotta educate people. It's through education and relationship building and education. So anyway, that's all the time I'm gonna take. And I appreciate you guys being here today. Thank you.